Okay, hello everyone. So today I'm going to show y'all how to set up your Anki decks for term 3. So this is, first I'll just show y'all what I have on my own personal profile, and then we'll make a new empty profile and work with that. So basically what I have is I have AnKing over here, and then I'm using AnKing, the whole thing, but I've only unsuspended a couple of cards, the ones that we've actually covered so far. And then Denki Debaki, I'm reviewing term 1 and term 2 still. Just I've already done my reviews for the day. And also the term 3, I'm unsuspending as we go. And the reason that I'm reviewing term 1 and term 2 is because the practical, I think, is cumulative, but the written exam is not for term 3, if I remember correctly. The point is that we have to remember some of the term 1 and term 2 stuff. Might as well keep up with the reviews, IMO, and anatomy is not that many usually. Anyway, so then, and I also have HassAnki here. I have term 1 and term 2, but I suspended all of those cards because I built up a lot of reviews over the break, and I don't really ever want to pay off that debt. So buy cards, goodbye. And here we have term 3. So this lecture didn't actually have any cards in it, and then there's the 2 farm lectures. And the rest are not important. Okay. So, okay, now let's go ahead and make a new profile, and I'll show y'all how to set up Anki on there. Okay, so this one, we're gonna delete the profile, then re-add it so that it's actually empty. There you go, here's an empty profile. All right, so first off, let's go over how to set up your term 3 decks if you are in, if you're just, from scratch, you don't have AnKing already. It works even if you have HassAnki, it doesn't make a difference. So just to prove that, I'll go ahead and import, HassAnki term 1, term 2. I think I have it. There it is. This is the one without images. Okay, and then so where do you get these? From? So the term 3 cards, I'll be uploading them in the same folder as before, Adele's Anki deck, but specifically within a subfolder. You also notice that I have final versions of the term 1 and 2 decks if you ever want to reference those. Anyway, so here we have, there's decks for AnKing. For these ones, you only need the latest because they're inclusive. You'll notice that the size will get bigger every day because they'll stack more and more cards. For the HassAnki cards, I got tired of having the giant decks, so I'll be exporting each lecture individually. So here we have lecture 01, here we have lecture 02, etc. Okay, so let's say that you're doing this on the same profile that you had HassAnki on before, this term 1, term 2. So the first thing is I'm going to go ahead and just suspend everything because so Control A to select all the cards, and it'll take a second, and then Control J to toggle suspend. Takes a second, it's loading, but there we go, all yellow. So I'm going to say that I don't really ever want to review those term 1, term 2 cards because there's like 10,000 and too many. So next, and it works the same even if you don't have these. To update the HassAnki cards, all we got to do is click on HassAnki term 3 farm 1, and this will add the cards for the first lecture. So we see it's created the term 3 subdeck, and we have pharmacology, and there's lecture 1. Let me fix the options here. Just max up. Oh, and then I have to save to all subjects, right? Oh, it saved the, okay, right, there we go. So there's that, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to import our second lecture. And so now you have to import each lecture separately just because of how I'm making the cards now. And you'll see that there's 43 cards for the first one, and only 8 for the second one. For the second lecture, I didn't really feel like there was a lot of stuff that needed to be added, so only 8 cards in addition to the AnKing cards. So there we go. That's the made from scratch HassAnki cards that you need for term 3. However, this is not going to be all the cards because if you only studied these cards, it would not be complete. You would not be ready for the test because I do have some cards from AnKing that are necessary. So to get those, we only need to import the latest AnKing folder. So this is 0104. Today's date is 0104. Cool. All right, there's 36 cards, and it will put those into AnKing, a separate deck. And just because that's how it is on my profile. Now, if you don't like that, you can fix it by going to the browse screen and scrolling down here. So notice that the AnKing tags are tagged with this hashtag BCM tag. So here, if we go and open the cards that have the lecture 1 tag, then it has all of the lecture 1 cards. So from AnKing, this was just the phases of the clinical trial type stuff and the volume of distribution cards. So I'm going to select all of those, and I'm going to change the deck to 01 lecture HassAnki term 3 farm 01 move cards. And now you can see that those cards have been added here. It's not just the 40 cards or whatever that we had, the 43 cards that we had before. Now we've added the 17 more from AnKing, and now this deck has everything that you need in it for lecture 1. Now, if you want, you can just leave them in AnKing and then just study that separately. Or if you want to have all of the cards for one lecture in the same place, you can do the same thing for lecture 2. Browse, select the tag over here. Control A to select all. Right click, change deck, or Control D if you want the shortcut. Change the deck to HassAnki term 3 farm 02. Move the cards. There we go. So now all of the cards, it used to be only 8 cards in this pharmacodynamics, but now we've added 12 more from AnKing for the total of 20. And so yeah, there we go. I need to actually, 28. There were 8. We added 20 more from AnKing, and now there are 28 total here. So there we go. That's how you can set up the cards. And this way, if you follow these steps, then you can study it just like you were doing before, and ignore the fact that some of these cards are coming from AnKing, and we can just ignore that. One last thing you'll notice is that there are 2 cards left here. Basically, those are the ones with the BCM extra tag. This represents cards that were in AnKing, and I felt they were relevant, so I went ahead and unsuspended them for myself at least. But if you find them confusing because they weren't covered in lecture, they're just related but not actually covered in lecture. So if you find them confusing, don't worry about it. It's not going to be on our test. You can cross that bridge when you get there. Anyway, so that's how you set up HassAnki term 3, and you can use that to study. So now let's start over, and let's see what happens if you don't, if you already have AnKing on your profile. So to do this, I will import AnKing no media. So the no media is 11 megabytes, but the version with media is like 3 gigabytes. It takes forever to download. It takes forever to transfer to your phone. So if you don't want to study it, you don't have to. It's fine. But there are some good reasons to study this. So what is AnKing? Basically, this is a deck that combines 2 of the most popular medical school decks. Let me see if I can find. Okay, 2 of the most popular medical school decks that have been made by med students from all across the country. One of them is called HassAnki, and the other is non-AnKing. So there's this guy, non-AnKing. Both of these are 2 different people who made decks for while they were going through medical school. And then various people have added to those decks, modified them, made corrections, added pictures, added tags. Anyway, so these decks are pretty much a culmination of a whole lot of work, and so I trusted these decks. I think that they're fairly reliable, basically this guy, the AnKing, he basically combined those decks, and then he flagged a bunch of the duplicate stuff, or he tagged a bunch of the duplicates, so that you don't because there was some overlap between the decks, and then kind of combined them into one massive deck. And there's also stuff for MS3. There's stuff for MS3 in there too, and Step 2, all that stuff. Anyway, so this is very comprehensive. Pretty much this is all the Anki cards you need for medical school, pretty much. but because Baylor, we don't have standardized curriculum and we don't necessarily teach the step. The professors kind of teach what they feel like is most relevant. That means that we do need to add, study some extra stuff. But if we were at like, UTMB, you could literally just download the AnKing, never watch a lecture, and just, go through your cards for the day and you'd be done. Anyway, but for us, why do I think this is a good idea? Why am I studying this deck? That's mostly because I want to. Let's see if we have this. Okay, yeah. So here we are. Let me set the option group here, and save all subjects. Yeah. So this is okay. So it's huge. This deck is huge. There's so you'll see when I select AnKing that there are 43,000 cards in AnKing. So these 43,000 cards, basically, I don't want to reach like the 6-week block for dedicated step 1 studying and, all of a sudden have 43,000 cards that I need to learn in 6 weeks because it's not going to happen. It's not. So instead, I'd like to have at least 8,000 or so done from over the course of this our preclinical block. So that way, when I get to dedicated step studying, I'll have done some of this already, and so it'll be a little bit easier to do the study for the step 1 exam. So that's my rationale for starting AnKing early. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the first thing you do when you get AnKing is you Control A to select every card. It will take a long time, as you may have noticed. And then we hit Control J to toggle suspend. Right click, or we can right click toggle suspend. This will take just as long, probably longer, because it's got to go in the database and update the state of all 43,000 cards. And my computer is okay, but not great, so it's going to take a minute. But eventually, all of these cards will turn yellow. And that's good, because then we won't have 43,000 new cards that we need to do in a single day. Instead, we can just unsuspend the cards that we've learned today, and do those. Just do those. Okay, there we go. Done. Okay, so now I can close this out. Now you'll see if we go back that there are 0 new cards. Much better. So next, what do we do? So next step then is to import the decks from me, and so I'll start with HassAnki. So HassAnki works just like before. 2 separate files for 2 separate lectures, and we import them. In this profile, I don't have HassAnki already downloaded on here, but again, it doesn't make any difference because they'll just get added to the term 3 subdeck. If you have term 1 and term 2 as well, it works fine. It's not an issue. So then we'll import lecture number 2. It's going to load. Okay. All right, there we go. So there's the HassAnki. And I'm going to set the, there we go. I didn't set to save to subdecks. Options, save to all subdecks. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So there's HassAnki, and then for AnKing, when we're importing the AnKing cards, I recommend getting a add-on called the Special Fields add-on. Okay, he's got a video on it there. The Special Fields AnKing. Here it is. So this add-on is important because it basically lets, I have it set up here, special fields. So I've added the add-on. To get the add-on, you just go to Tools, Add-ons, and then you paste in the code that they have here, right here. I already have it, so I'm not going to add it again. But anyway, once you have the add-on, you can just go to Tools, Special Fields, and just change the set. So the settings, I think by default, it's set import tags, and that's what we're going to do. So basically, we don't actually what these buttons do is it will update these checkboxes to the appropriate settings for either updating cards or for importing tags. So for the AnKing cards, I'm not actually changing them really. So you don't have to update anything about the styling or any of the fields. You don't have to update any of those. The only thing that we want to do is just combine the tags and leave all of the fields as they are. So the only thing I want to do is add a tag, because right now there is if I go to browse, I have no way of knowing which cards are in the Baylor lectures. I only know which cards correspond to Baylor lectures, right? So if you remember the hashtag BCM card, a BCM tag from before, we don't have that yet because we haven't imported it. The cards are tagged based on what physio lecture they're in, or what exercise lecture they're in, or what sketchy lecture they're in, or pathoma, or first aid, or Costanzo, or B&B, or AMBOSS. So they're tagged based on all the standardized resources, but they're not tagged for our lectures. Unfortunately, we have to do that ourselves. So what we'll do is once we have it set to import tags, I'm just going to combine the tags and leave all the fields the same. So basically that means that anything that you put in the lecture notes field or the missed questions field will stay there, and it won't get overridden by my missed questions or my lecture notes. So here we go. Let's import file. So let me to import our file. What we'll do here is AnKing BCM. So we only need the latest file here for AnKing, as you may recall. So I'll just download that latest file. And what it will do is it will update the tags for those notes. And now if we go to browse and go to tags, we'll see that we have that BCM tag. So now we can see that because we had the special fields add-on, it's created the additional tag. So there's a new tag for hashtag BCM, but all of the other tags are still there. If we didn't have the special fields add-on, all of these tags would have been erased, and the only tag you would have seen would have been the BCM tag. Okay, so that's the importance of the special fields add-on. And now what we can do is, studying AnKing, we can go ahead and unsuspend the cards for the first lecture. Control-A, Control-J, select the second, and we can unsuspend the cards for the second lecture, and then we can study them. Okay, so there's 37 cards from AnKing that we need to study. You can also suspend the extra cards if you want, and if you want, you can also move them. Just like before, you could move these over to the lecture, the deck for the lecture in HassAnki if you want to have all of your cards for one lecture in the same place. You can do that. I'm personally planning to leave the AnKing cards as where they are, and the HassAnki cards separately. So I'm just going to study those two decks separately. If it gets annoying, maybe I'll change. So yeah, that's I think that's everything I can think of for how to update and get the cards for term 3. Oh yeah, and I think I mentioned I'm using Janky Devaki so that's you just download the term 3 anatomy, and yeah, that's for anatomy. And then so HassAnki will cover farm and IPBD. RPM isn't something you study for, and yeah, so that's the plan for term 3. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. My DMs are open, and on Discord or GroupMe, both work. I've been checking them pretty frequently. And okay, I think I need to go to a lecture, so I will stop recording now.